Hey, and welcome to Matt and Jess TV. I am Matt Roach.
And I'm Jessica Bun Bun.
Welcome to our reaction and review for Dexter Resurrection Season 1, Episode 4. This episode is titled Call Me Red. I'm just going to go out and say it right now. This is one of my favorite Dexter episodes in a really long time. I'm talking years. I'm talking since
Wow.
maybe Season 5.
Oh, wow. No, it was good. It was good.
I just loved almost everything that they did in this episode. I think there's some really unique performances.
Mhm.
There's some moments in here that I also was just legitimately like fully shocked that they did that. And I'm cynical at this point. Jess and I, we've been covering TV for so long that I like to think it takes a lot of work to get one over on me. They did it in this episode on two separate occasions.
Oh, two. Yeah, they definitely got me on one, which I think is a similar one, which
Yeah.
was Lowell is gone already.
Yeah.
Like Neil Patrick Harris is such a huge star. When they announced that he was coming onto the show, I was like, "Oh man, that's a big get. This is
Yeah.
amazing." And then they kind of Drew Barrymore'd him in Scream, where it was just like he had like maybe 10 or 15 minutes of screen time, and then he was dead. I was legitimately shocked, like floored.
I could not believe it. I just felt
No.
like, especially after they introduced him, I thought Neil Patrick did a great job in this role too. Like he is about as game of an actor as I've ever seen, whether it be what he did in Harold and Kumar, being Barney on How I Met Your Mother. It just feels like no matter the character, he goes for it 110% to the point where he's given this dude an accent. He's like really creepy and interesting. I really felt like halfway through this, okay, I could see a full season where this guy is the big bad. And the other reason I was snowed over, Clyde Phillips, I'm looking at you. You had done all this promotion where you were sort of suggesting that a lot of these killers being brought into Leon's dinner party
Mhm.
were all going to be possible big bads, future foes for Dexter. They could be around a long time. And then you just finger wag, no, 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 at us. And you made us completely floored by this.
Yeah, I mean, it's still possible that some of the other killers that were at this party might be someone in the future seasons that are like, they will end up being the big bad. We barely got to know the Gemini killer. He said maybe two things.
Yeah.
Al, Rapunzel barely said anything. We are getting to know Mia, but tattoo collector just gone. I thought for sure he would be somebody that they might want to circle back to, and no connection to Dexter at all. I know
No.
there was a lot of theories going around online. We talked a little bit about this preseason too, that he just looks so much like Michael C. Hall, that the two of them look so similar, that there was a lot of theories going around that maybe they're like half siblings or there was some sort of connection with them, but nope.
Here's the part of this I'm kind of kicking myself over is I remember preseason, a lot of these, recurring killers, Kristen Ritter, David Dismalch, and Eric Stonestreet, like they did a lot of joint interviews together. And at the time I was like, why isn't Neil Patrick doing this? Like, what's going on? I just assumed at that point, I was like, okay, maybe he's busy. Maybe he's
Yeah.
just camped out at the Magic Castle because he's going to go watch some more magic shows or something. But I never thought for a second that it was like, okay, we're going to get rid of Lowell right now. But honestly, I'm happy they did, not because I didn't like that character, but rather it just gives us that feeling of surprise, of wonder that Dexter, the show, did so well.
Dexter has always been at the forefront of everybody is on the table, that
Yes.
anybody can go at any point, so don't get too attached to anyone. And it was really nice to see them have such a big actor come on in such a huge role, seemingly, to go like that.
Yeah. All right. Well, we have a ton to talk about in this episode. If you can't tell already, we're very, very much excited. But before we get into any of it, be sure to hit that subscribe button because if you guys didn't know, Jess and I, we do 3 Dexter Resurrection videos here a week. We
Yep.
do reviews, previews, theories. We love talking about Dexter, so be sure to hit our comments. We love talking back and forth with you guys. We are also in the midst of a really fun summer TV season where we're looking ahead here at Twisted Metal, a show that Jess really, really loves. She's a
Yeah.
big video game fan. And then also Alien Earth is coming next month after months of promotion.
Yeah, thank you so much to everyone who has subscribed. It really helps us
Mhm.
here at the channel. And if you want to talk with us further about Dexter, we're having more conversations over on our Patreon. I'll
Yeah.
leave a link for you below if you want to check that out. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. We really appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right, so let's just start here at the beginning. So Dexter meets up with Charlie. He's assuming the identity here of Ronald,
Mhm.
aka Red, finds his
Mhm.
way into the compound. Now, we talked a lot about this in the episodes leading up to this, that maybe Charlie was going to suspect that something was off about him, and it doesn't seem like we're there yet.
Yeah, I mean, that whole thumbprint thing that he put together was just magical
Yes.
watching him like work that out. Cause I was kind of, as a former funeral director, I was like, that thumb is not going to stay fresh for very long. And learning now that this is kind of like one dinner party of many gatherings over 2 weeks, I'm like, that thumb is not going to be all that ripe by the time it's going to be very ripe by the time we're at 2 weeks and he's trying to use it. I wasn't sure how he was going to kind of sneak it out, anyways. This was really cool. I really like the way that they put that together.
Yeah, it felt very smart. We all want Dexter to be somebody who's a couple of steps ahead in terms of, okay, I'm planning for things, I'm thinking about things. I don't know if like a month down the road they will be like, okay, we know you are who you say you are. Do you have to do the fingerprint thing anymore at a certain point? I don't know, but it kind of feels
Yeah.
like he should for security's sake.
Yeah, with Charlie, I was actually surprised because she went through his apartment. I mean,
Yeah.
he doesn't have any pictures of himself, no photo albums in the apartment. Like, I understand you want to have things offline. They're not able to find Ronald online. No problem, right? But she didn't do any sort of recon where she went to his job and saw him coming out of his job. Dexter even did that. She knows where he works. Like, I was really surprised that there was nothing that she saw that where she actually got to see his face, saw him at work, picture in his apartment. She was able to figure out he's a vegan, but couldn't figure out what he looked like.
Yeah,
It was a stretch, but I'll buy it.
yeah, it was a stretch, but thankfully it's probably one of the few stretches that you struggle with after watching an episode like
Yeah.
this, because then we get to finally meet Peter Dinklage as Leon Prater. What a weird dude this guy is, and I mean that in the best possible way. Seeing his tour of his manor with all of these trophies, it was so messed up.
That refrigerator of Dahmer's was
No.
so grim. Like, there were some things that I was like, oh, and he's got Gacy's clown suit. And the refrigerator really threw me. Like, I actually felt my stomach turn when I saw that. I was like, oh, that's too much.
Yeah.
But going through it, he ends up actually seeing his own blood slides there.
Well, this is what makes this idea really exciting to me is basically, okay, he's got the blood slides. He also has artifacts of Trinity and the ice truck
No.
killer.
Oh,
So we have all this wonderful Dexter nostalgia
oh
that's
my
thrown in
goodness.
here. And obviously that's fun as longtime fans of the franchise. But then beyond all that, okay, we kind of know how he was able to procure the blood slides. How did he get this other stuff? Because it's just interesting that these are all, I know that there's the real life legendary people in here, are infamous, I should
Yeah.
say, but there's also these people so tied to Miami Metro.
Yeah, because that's the thing. Like, some of these things would be evidence, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, like the blood slides or the refrigerator, things like that. But then I was kind of thinking about the table, the ice truck killer table, because he unalived himself. That's the story
Yeah.
that, was given. That's kind of like, okay, well, that might not end up being something that's evidence, maybe, right? If he just took care of himself and that's the story, then no crime committed here, right? He committed other crimes, but not this particular thing. So would this be evidence or not? Or would somebody else have just picked it up out of the trash?
Well, that's the thing. Do you have Charlie going to like yard sales trying to find this stuff? It just feels like there's a lot of backstory that's currently missing on Leon. I'm sure a lot of this is intentional.
Yeah, and that's the biggest question I have here with Leon because and even Dexter had the same sort of question too. It's like, okay, you have all this like pretty damning evidence with the people that are at this party, including these trophies from people, in the past that aren't around anymore. But current people that are here at your table, you've got this one rule. You can't come after each other, and if you do, something's going to happen to you. You're going to be taken out. It really kind of felt almost like the killers at this table are almost being held prisoner in a way where it's like, okay, yeah, we're getting something from Prater. We're getting money and, opportunity to be able to talk to other killers, but we have to dance for our supper. Oh, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm getting ready to do. And watching, him sit there salivate over it as a fanboy. And he has said over and over, I'm a fan, I'm a fan. But at the same time, he's got rules on killers at this point. You can't kill each other. If you do, we're going to kill you. At that point, I'm just kind of like, who are you to be threatening us? You're in a room full of killers. At any point that we decide that we're done with you, we're done with you.
I think there's an interesting question of what is motivating Leon at this point. And I think my tinfoil hat feeling on it, just one episode after seeing him, is
Mhm.
that a lot of it might be just ego. Because one thing he's talked a lot about here is that, he's not really a killer himself. Charlie's done a lot of dirty work for him, but he likes to surround himself with a lot of these people. But yeah, I think he's a fan of it. But I think at the same time, he really is fond of this idea that he's enabling these people to go out and do these really unspeakable things because he's basically trying to make them feel special. I'm a fan of you. You're not alone in all of this. I really love this idea of you taking out people, but even more than that, I love you doing it because I am empowering you to do it. And I think he loves being the man behind the curtain. Like, I think that's the thing that sort of gets him up in the morning more so than however much money he has. And so that idea of control is really, really tantalizing to him. And I kind of feel like if he starts to feel like that's going to be taken away from him, that's where he could really start to unravel. And that's where you kind of get into that possibility of, okay, maybe he does try to kill someone in that situation.
Yeah, it just feels very, I mean, what he's doing anyways is very sinister, bringing these people together,
Yeah.
getting the trophies, reveling in watching them, do their craft, we'll call it. But there's just something that's very strange about it that these killers are willing to dance for their supper. Like, yeah, the money is great or whatever, but it seems like a lot of them have jobs as well at that point. And if they wanted to have that community, and it does seem like they do, like Rapunzel's there very much like, oh, it's so nice to see you. Oh, we're all together again, sort of thing. They have been doing this for a few years now. So they don't need Prater to be able to talk to each other. They can talk to each other whenever they want.
Yeah, it kind of feels like a pyramid scheme, if I'm being totally honest, where it's just like you get involved, you're selling these products door to door, but you have to meet a quota. If not, the boss is going to come after you. Where it's sort of like, let's say you're Rapunzel at this point, who, I like Eric Stone Street. It's fun to see him in this sort of role, but it feels like this is somebody who is really managing and actually balancing a double life pretty well.
Yeah.
Where if he's not killing somebody in a certain amount of time, what's Leon gonna do about that? Is he just gonna be like, oh, you're not doing this anymore? Like, what's wrong with you? Do you need some
Yeah.
encouragement?
Yeah, there was definitely that feeling of threat at the end of this party where Leon is talking to Dexter and is basically like, "Yeah, it's your first night, so it's okay for no show and tell, but this is a 2-week process and I am going to be expecting something out of you." And I was just like, "Oh, it's very interesting. Like, you're going to give him the money to come to the party. He's given you one of Red's trophies.
Yeah.
That's fine. But you also then have to what? Like, you can do some show and tell. But what we saw with the tattoo collectors, he was actively going to be killing somebody during these 2 weeks.
Yeah, this feels very much, it all brings me back to a question from Hannibal, which I miss greatly. Are you here
Oh,
to observe or to participate? I think we are seeing
nice.
Leon wants people to participate. He doesn't want people to just sit there and watch. And I think this is obviously something that he's getting a lot of fulfillment out of. So it's basically like, okay, you're going to keep killing people. You're going to tell me how you keep killing people. You're going to bond with these other people. And if you don't do any of this, then Charlie's going to go and club you to death. And that's basically how this is all going to play out.
Okay, let's talk about the Mia of it all. I'm
All right.
really glad that they spoke about her title, Lady Vengeance, which
Yeah.
was something that at the beginning of all this, we were just kind of like, why does everybody have like a cool name and she gets this? And she did explain it where she was just like, the media gave me this name. It's really lame. If I was a dude, I'd have a much cooler name than this, but that's not what's happening. I'm
Yeah.
Lady Vengeance. And Dexter immediately feels, attraction to her in multiple ways. Yeah, it seems like there might be some romance coming up here, but it also seems like she has a code of some sort. It may not be exactly the same as Dexter's, but she's also going after men that are doing terrible things to women after what happened to her sister. That was her
Yeah.
first kill. The mother's boyfriend that was doing things to her sister, and now she's been going forward doing the bidding of that to be like, okay, you know what, you're also doing terrible things for women to women, I'm gonna get you. Which, a little bit of a tinfoil hat, was Ryan on her list here? Because he was in town doing terrible things to women and Harrison took care of it.
Yeah, I think it's a good question. It's a good question in general, how she finds out about certain people
Very
and
cute.
how she kind of plans a lot of that out. And with Dexter, I think long term, the fascination here is that, yeah, I think there's clearly an attraction between the two, but something that Dexter has always struggled with in various forms, whether it was Miguel Prado,
Mhm.
whether it was, Hannah. I mean, at one point, Hannah was on Dexter's table. I mean, we can't forget about that. It's just this idea of, okay, even if she has a code, does that mean that he can still reconcile that, okay, here is this person who is still killing other people, regardless of her rationale? Am I still duty bound to try to take care of her at some point?
Yeah, and I think that he's going to be very, very conflicted about that. Like, part of his motivation to go to this party was that he's going to take out these killers because they're
Yeah.
killing innocent people. Then in rolls Mia. No, I'm not killing innocent people. I'm killing people that are doing terrible things. Uh-oh,
Yeah.
SpaghettiOs. What am I going to do with this now? She doesn't fit the code. It doesn't fit my code.
Yeah, it throws all these wrenches into it. It's a really complicated, interesting thing to follow. And I
Yep.
hope that the writers are going to give interesting dynamics with Dexter and some of these other still surviving killers, because we've gotten a little bit of Rapunzel, but you mentioned it earlier. Gemini Killer, your guy David Dismulchen, he's
Yep.
barely in this episode, and I feel like he's a prominent enough actor. Like, you guys got to be giving something more to him.
Yeah, he's not small time. He's a pretty prominent actor, especially at this point. And I will say though that I actually really appreciated that there was a killer there that doesn't seem to be functioning all that well, which is the Gemini killer.
Yeah.
Like, you've got Mia and Al hugging it out. You got Tattoo Collector's kind of a bro in here, but he's functioning socially pretty well, and so
Yeah.
is Dexter. Then in comes the Gemini killer, who's seemingly very pulled back, a little bit strange. And it's nice to see that that's there, because that would be somebody that's at the table.
It would be, and I'm just really excited about this particular role because I mean we've seen David talk about this, and it seems like there's some sort of twist coming for him, and whatever it is, you guys are nailing the twist in other places.
Okay, so what are the ramifications going to be now? Because the one rule is you cannot kill any of the other killers.
Yes,
It has been like a day. And because Lowell was out here being like, oh, this girl's sleeve is almost done. And, I'm going to be taking her out. And it's seemingly going to be a lot faster than I thought. I thought she was going to have a couple more tattoo sessions. Turns out she's going to be done tonight. So things have moved along a lot faster where, it's been a day and now Dexter's actually killed somebody from the party. And it's going to end up really rippling out. I mean, it seems like Tattoo Collector has been there for a few years now. Everybody knows him. He's
yeah.
not brand new, but Dexter is the brand new guy.
So everyone is inevitably going to be looking at him. Like, I don't think there's any way Dexter can get out of that, and I think Dexter probably even knows that. I'm sure he will probably go in there and be like, Yeah, it's really terrible what happened to this guy, but at the same time, that's not my MO. Like, why would I go after him? That's not the way in which I kill people, which maybe that's enough to convince a couple of the other killers who have a very specific MO, but it's sort of if you're Charlie, I just don't want to. I know we fixate on Charlie a little bit
Mhm.
here, but this is her job to be suspicious of these people, to run security. Like, she is the person who I feel like is going to want to look into this. And even if Dexter tries to say, oh, I was with Mia that day, he left at a specific time, that if they put the timeline together, they might be able to figure this out.
Yeah, and I mean, it seemed like there was a little bit of like, coldness between Tattoo Collector and Mia. So, I mean, if she kind of finds out about it, is she going to be that upset about it? Like, she doesn't feel like she really vibes with him, anyways.
Yeah.
But I will say that the thing I'm wondering how they're going to go about this is when Dexter has him on the table and is like, I'm Dexter Morgan. And he's
Yeah.
like, who? He's like, the Bay Harbor Butcher. And you saw all the color drain out of his face. And he was like, oh my goodness. You saw that moment with Dexter where all of a sudden he felt like he was somebody.
Yeah.
And that is something that they've been playing with this season where, he got mad about this whole Ronald thing in the first place because the media dubbed him the Dark Passenger. And he's like, oh, no, 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 no. You're not taking my moniker and giving it to this nobody. That's for me. And with the Bay Harbor Butcher, I mean, seeing his face and seeing the joy that Dexter got of being recognized, that might be something that he wants to pull back towards himself.
Well, and that's going to be what makes the rest of this season, especially with Leon, really, really interesting. Because
Yeah.
I think it's inevitable. It's going to come out that Dexter's not Ronald. Like, I don't think he's going to be Ronald the entire season, but it's how he goes about this. Because
Mhm.
there's a part of me, tinfoil hat here, that
Mhm.
feels like he is going to be able to go in there and be like, actually, no, I'm not Ronald. I am the Bay Harbor Butcher. And I think Leon's face is going to light up the same way all the color went out of the tattoo
I
collector's face,
agree.
because the Bay Harbor Butcher is like a top tier, clearly serial killer here on the
Yeah.
lines with these other people that are in the de facto museum. So I think Leon's going to be really excited. But then there's probably going to be a little pause, because then if you're Rapunzel, Jim, and I kill everybody else, you're going to be like, we have this guy in here who took out Lowell. Like, isn't he going to take out us now?
Yeah, and I mean, this is the thing. I do think it's all going to come out that he is the Bay Harbor Butcher. I think Leon's going to let that slide. I think Charlie's not going to be okay. I think Mia will probably be okay because they're building something, but other people might not be okay
Yeah.
with it. The real person that shouldn't be okay with it is Dexter, because Leon definitely is holding things over people that
Yes.
are coming to this party where they think that they're free to talk and do whatever, but really they're trapped.
Okay, here's another tinfoil hat here,
All
because this
right.
is an instant one. This is something I just thought of, because
Okay.
I know I've seen a lot of people online who feel like some of the biggest loose ends for this show include Aster and Cody, who have not
Yep.
been around for a long time. If what you're saying is true here, and Leon and Charlie are able to kind of dig up everything to have dirt on Dexter, that's actually a feasible way I could see them coming back, where he like goes and kidnaps them or does something to them to try to get to Dexter, because I know they weren't his kids, but they were an important part of his life at a certain point. And so that is the sort of ammunition that they could have over him, whether it's that, some people he worked with at Miami Metro. Like,
Yeah.
there are a lot of interesting, nostalgic ways that that could kind of all play into Dexter's present.
Yeah, Leon is extremely dangerous. I honestly don't know how he makes it out of this season alive, if I'm being honest, because I feel like while Dexter is getting something from this group of people of
Yeah.
actually being able to talk freely, he's not able to talk that freely because he is still pretending to be somebody else. But once that comes out, I think he's going to realize just how trapped he really is, that having someone as powerful as Leon know his secrets, while that implicates Leon kind of, Leon's a rich guy. He's going to be able to
Yeah.
get out of this, but somebody like Dexter won't.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And for me personally, I don't know how you get Peter Dinklage to sign on for more than one season, given his pedigree. But who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe they'll surprise me, because this is where we get into the other thing about this episode that genuinely floored me.
Hmm.
That is the idea that, okay, we saw in the promo that Harrison was going to meet up with Batista. It was
Yep.
so easy to assume at that point, and we did this whole theory video about how Harrison was going to learn that Dexter is alive, that, Batista was just going to tell him. But he didn't tell him. And I was just so happy that didn't happen. And then we could actually be surprised again by the end of this episode.
Yeah, so we know that Angel was tracking Dexter's actual truck. I know
Yeah.
that there's been a lot of discussion on whether it was the truck that he stole or if this was Dexter's actual truck, the one that Harrison took at the end of New Blood and drove out of town. And that's the truck that he was following. It brought him to Harrison, where at first he was starting to be like, hey, do you remember me? Do you remember my sister? She's to take care of you. And there's, the Jamie mentioned that a lot of us had
Yes.
wanted to hear about, could we see her? She is over on Criminal Minds Evolution, so I don't know, but she's busy right now. But it was really cool to see that kind of coming together until Harrison really realizes why Angel is here and that he is digging into his father. And when when Harrison is just like, yeah, my father is dead. There's that moment that you see it on Angel's face where he's like, I'm just not going to tell him.
Yeah.
That way, if I don't tell him, maybe he's going to be willing to open up about him because he doesn't know he's alive and it can't hurt him if he's dead.
Yeah, and this is why Angel is really, really smart. He's able to think on the fly. And I think he sort of realizes, okay, if Dexter is gone, the best thing I can do here is try to present myself as a father figure, a mentor, somebody who knew a lot of his past. Maybe Harrison's going to be eager to learn more about his past. Like, I can sit here and do this while at the same time getting this information. I think the tricky thing here is that Harrison obviously knows somewhere in his head. It's like, obviously no love lost between him and Dexter, but he sort of knows that, okay, if Dexter starts to actually go down for some of this or be identified, that's more attention on me. And I know what I have just done. So I can't do anything that is going to try to connect any dots whatsoever because I don't want any of the heat. So I just have to sit here and lie to the best of my ability.
Yeah, and I mean, we talked about this in the last video as well, the idea that Angel was probably going to find out about what happened at the hotel.
Yeah.
He does. He hears exactly how it's done. He's like, oh, cool. This is exactly the way that the Bay Harbor Butcher Dexter did it. And now here's the son where there's been a murder at this hotel. And I was just kind of like, okay, is he going to think like father, like son, and that maybe Harrison did this? Or is he going to think that Dexter did this at the hotel and he's just got another thread? So it was only a matter of time before he was going to connect with Claudette and that team. It happened really fast.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that they moved it along that quick.
Yeah, we didn't need to stall on any of that because it's like the quicker we can make Batista into as big of a threat as possible for Harrison and Dexter, honestly, the better. We don't want anything to happen to Angel, but you have to live with that danger on a show like this where something could happen to him at any given moment.
I have my hard hat on. I am getting more and more and more worried about Angel. I do
Yes.
not want to see Angel get killed, but I'm starting to be concerned that Harrison is going to end up having to take out Angel to protect himself and to protect his dad. I don't think that the show is going to want Angel on Dexter's table. I think that's just a bit too grim and sad for the show because everyone likes Angel
Yeah.
so much. But, I just don't know how Angel continues to get this close and continues to live.
Well, that's the thing. It's very hard for me to buy this idea that Angel is gonna hear out Dexter or Harrison and then just be like, you know what, I understand. Like, I understand why you're doing this. It's okay. He has too much of a moral compass for something like that.
And then we saw that Angel really got into Harrison's mind and is
Yeah.
just like, is your dad telling you that he's out here as some sort of vengeance angel, taking care of all the bad guys? And he's making you think that he's a good guy by doing it because some innocent people, including your mother, have ended up dead because of what he is doing. And as soon as he hit on that drum of his mother, it really got into his head about it all. And I mean, Harrison is very different from Dexter in that way that he does carry guilt.
Yes, he does. And David Zayas, let's just take a moment here to talk about how good you were in that scene. Like, we all know David
So
Zayas is an
good.
incredible actor, but it was just like I felt something in that scene that I have not felt watching Dexter any version of it in a good while, which is he's just laying it all out on the table. He's reminding us fully of all the repercussions of everything Dexter has done because it's so easy to, I don't want to say root for Dexter, but enjoy watching him because he is this anti-hero. But there's these other people who end up getting caught in all of it, who are innocent. And I think he pointed all that out to Harrison in a way that I fully bought the idea of, okay, here is Harrison ready to turn himself in, ready to just sort of recognize and take responsibility.
Yep.
And then in comes Dexter at the last second, and then we have an incredible cliffhanger.
It's such an incredible cliffhanger. I mean, obviously, Harrison's not going to just go turn himself in, or
Yeah.
that's pretty much the end of the season. Dexter had to step in at this point, but I legitimately thought it was going to be Angel that was going to end up telling Harrison about his
Yes.
dad. I did not expect it to play out like this.
No, and this ending just leaves us with all of these questions where it is, okay, here's Harrison who tried to kill his dad. His dad is back. What do you do about it now? Because you're in trouble. Like, how do you
Mhm.
navigate all this? Do you just take Dexter out? I cannot think of a way in which Dexter and Harrison would have been reunited that would feel as satisfying to me as what they did.
Yeah, I mean, Dexter is really going to have to lay out a compelling
Yes.
argument to make Harrison not just turn away and walk in that door.
Yeah, and I don't know how I'm sure he's thought something up because Dexter always has some element of a plan, but Harrison's not an idiot. Like it's gonna actually have to be pretty good in order to convince him.
Okay, we're going to talk about something that's just, it's still Harrison, but a little off topic. It's something that
Yeah.
you guys have brought up in the comments, and now we have this almost kiss with Elsa. How old is Harrison? Because on New Blood, he was supposed to be 16 years old, which would make him a minor. So now it's only 10 weeks later
Yes.
after all of this, and now he's in New York. He's gotten his GED instead of just going back to high school. This is how he's dealt with that. And he's, interested in Elsa. How old is Elsa supposed to be? She is working here at this hotel. She's a young person with a kid, but is she not an adult?
Okay, I'm just going to speak off the cuff here because there's no clear answers. It feels like to me Elsa's probably 19 or 20, somewhere along that range.
Still an adult.
Still an adult. But the thing that I kind of feel like with Harrison is that I don't even know if Dexter, the show, knows how old Harrison is supposed to be because they have fudged this so much over the years.
Yeah, they
It's
have.
sort of like think back to well, how old Harrison was at the end of the original show. If you were trying to play with timelines and maybe, I don't know, a literal sense, you could go back and forth as to how old he was supposed to be in New Blood versus now. And I don't know if they're just trying to say now, okay, maybe he turned 17 at some point.
Right,
And
which would make him an adult.
yeah, that's
in New York.
yeah, it's to make something adult in New York under those particular guidelines, but it's still a little bit weird. I don't know if they're ever going to give a lot of clarity on it. I don't know if they're going to be like, well, Harrison, he's lost so many people in his life. He's just grown up. He's basically an adult now, but it's like, okay, well, what definition are you going by?
Well, and also there seems to be just these double standards about it, that it's okay if it's a young guy and an older woman, but if it's vice versa, it's a no. And it's all just a no. But
Yeah.
if they've made him 17, even still, her as an adult that has a kid, is 17 old enough to want to bring in as a potential love interest when you have a kid? I mean, it's still pretty young. So I wasn't too surprised
Mhm.
he went in for the kiss and she was like, I don't know about this. I've got a kid to think about,
Yeah.
and you're whatever you are, 16, 17.
I appreciated her reaction to it just because like
Yes.
I want to at least think that she is actively aware of some problematic parts of all of this. And we don't know
Right.
everything that Dexter has, I mean, that Harrison's told her
Mhm.
or anything else, but there's at least a little bit of an awareness there. I don't know if there's ever going to be that much more clarity, but I think a lot of it's going to just depend on how fast we dive into everything with Dexter and Harrison, because so far this show, it has been paced really, really quickly.
I don't care about this love story whatsoever. They don't need it at all. Elsa could have been anybody.
It's true. It's just the rest of this episode just cooks so hard. This is just like, I know they had a dinner party. We had ourselves a dinner party with food that was hopefully a lot better than whatever vegan stuff they were giving
I
Dexter
know.
over the course of this. But that is where we are from season 1, episode 4. What did you guys think about this episode? And beyond all that, do you think that Leon is a fanboy or a foe? Give us your thoughts, your theories. Hit that subscribe button for more of our 3 Dexter videos a week, and you
Mhm.
can support us further by joining our Patreon. That link is in the description. We are covering exclusively there, countdown in video form. Thank you so much. We'll see you here next time.